All right, we're getting started on the front brakes on the Camaro. We have just stock 99 Camaro front brakes. They're a dual aluminum caliper, dual piston aluminum caliper. I'm not sure what the dimensions on the rotor are, but whatever comes factory, that's what's on the car now. So I'm gonna go ahead and unbox the stuff that we have that's new, so you can see that. And then you'll be able to see Annie is gonna take the front brakes apart while I sit here and get some of this stuff prepped to go on, and then we'll get the new stuff put on. So we decided to use TBM, is the company that we use for brakes. TBM makes two different kits. They make a kit that you can reuse the factory hub, which is what we decided to go with. And then they have another one where they have a hub mounted, or like a spindle mounted brake, which in this case, we don't want a spindle mounted brake. We want to reuse the factory hub. If I was going to change the steering knuckle in the car and put a spindle mount on there, then we could use a spindle mount wheel and spindle mounted brakes and that kind of thing. But for this, we're trying to keep this fairly low budget, so we are just going to reuse the factory spindle. So with that being said, I got a brand new hub bearing. You can pretty much, it's just a stock replacement is all it is. And this one is from AutoZone. There's a lot of different ones that you can go with. I chose this just because they carry the lifetime warranty. There may be better quality stuff out there, I don't know, but I wasn't about to go and pay the money that GM wanted for a hub bearing. This one, for the amount of use that we're gonna give this car, this hub bearing should last quite a lot longer than if it were daily driven on the street. So go with the lifetime warranty. If we ever did have an issue, it's not a big deal. Pull it off, go exchange it, get a new one. Doesn't cost us anything. So that's what we're gonna do. So we got the brand new hub bearing here. And like I said, it is just a factory replacement, factory wheel studs in the front. We have the weld wheels that are on there now, the Greg Weld skinnies that will bolt right up to this, and the shank style lug nuts, we're gonna get a new set, but they'll go right on to here the same way that it was before. And up in the front, we're not too worried about changing these out. We're not doing a lot of real hard stuff in the front. So for what we're doing, this factory hub should be fine. So we got that we're gonna throw on there. Even though it has the ABS sensor, we're not gonna use that for ABS. In the future, we may actually tap into that and use that speed sensor for something else, as far as traction control or something like that, if we get into more electronics in the car. So at least we have the capability to use a wheel speed sensor for something, whether it be a speedometer or whatever the case may be. But for right now, that will not get used. We'll just cap that off and then just use the actual sealed hub bearing. So that there, and we'll get into the TBM box. This car will have TBMs on the rear as well. And on a drag car, most of the braking is going to be done in the rear, instead of it being like a street car where most of the braking is done in the front. And the reason for that is that skinny, low profile front tire is not going to have as much grip on the track as the big back tires are going to. So as long as we get the bias right on the brakes, then we should be good to go. And I do have an adjustable proportioning valve that will get plumbed in as well. I'll be able to showcase that here in just a second. But let's open up the TBM kit. I've been in it just to make sure we have everything, there's no issues, and everything looks good. This is their F1 kit. They have an F1 and an F3. So the F1 kit is a dual piston billet front caliper. This thing is like a work of art, and it's super light. These guys, Doug Cook and those guys over at Motion and TBM, they really have turned that company into something great, and I'm really happy to use their stuff. But that's going to be the caliper for the front wheel. And I know it doesn't look like much, but these things are on cars that are doing 200 plus miles an hour, so I know that they're capable. So we've got the calipers. We've got two of those. Same thing in this box. And these are a two-piece rotor. These are the rotor hat. Open this stuff up. There's the one-piece billet rotor hat. Super lightweight. Gorgeous. Here's the second one of those. Here's our caliper brackets. Another nice billet piece. Two caliper brackets. These are just the pads for the caliper. Again, they don't look like a whole lot, but they're definitely capable. These are the standard duty pads. We may upgrade the pads into the heavy duty pads. They have an extreme pad that they use. They don't recommend it for any kind of low speed activity whatsoever. This is supposed to be capable until you get into probably single digits in the quarter mile. This is capable enough to stop that car with no issues. So they're small, but they pack a punch. So we're gonna start with the standard pads. If it seems like we need to upgrade, then we can. So, pads, all the hardware. Reminds me of those old credit card commercials. The guy drops them out of his wallet. So all the hardware here for everything. This will be for the rotors. And then that's one of the nice things about TBM. They're unique. They're known for having these crazy looking elliptical rotors. This is how everybody will know that they're TBM brakes. That's your rotor right there. The actual rotor surface that the pads engage. And these are solid. They're drilled obviously to dissipate heat and get rid of the dust. That's the whole reason for the elliptical cut. But they are solid. And they give you a minimum thickness on them. When it comes time to change out pads, rotors, that change out is so easy. You just buy these and change them off on the hats and then replace the pads. You're good to go. So we got the two rotors in here. All this stuff. We're gonna go ahead and get this stuff assembled on the bench, getting the hats put on the rotors, getting the calipers loaded. Another nice feature about these, the pad retainer that's in here is actually got a bolt that keeps the retainer in place, and there's a small hole for safety wire. So you can actually safety wire this bolt in place so you don't have to worry about it backing out and losing the pads. So it's kind of a nice little feature. And it's just one bar that captures the pads in place. Really nice piece. right, so we just finished up the install on the front brakes on the Camaro. The TBMs are on, and wanted to give everybody an opportunity to see this before we put the wheel on. Now, there is no lines ran in the car yet, so we're just going to get the assemblies on each wheel. So getting this stuff on here and getting the stuff taken care of in the rear end will happen first, and then we'll go ahead and we'll plumb everything once we've got these pieces installed. The calipers, like I said, so these are very similar to a Willwood as far as the installation goes. They have to be spaced. The rotor has to kind of get centered up in between the two pads and the caliper. But one thing that's really nice about this is once the wheel's on and it's centered and this is held in place, there's absolutely no drag, like not even on the pads. And that's one of the features of the TBM. That's one of the reasons that we wanted to go with it. There's absolutely zero drag. So normally you'll hear them kind of scraping, but on these, nothing. So it's pretty nice. The wheel obviously isn't on here, so the rotor isn't going to be stuck in place yet, but really nice piece. I'm very happy with the way that they fit on the car. Everything went on with no problem. The hardest part was figuring out the spacing on the calipers. And if anybody's ever done an aftermarket front brake install, disc brake conversion, anything like that, that's generally going to be a standard procedure you're going to have to do. I'll take a second here and I'll show you this is what we've got. This will be the next step when it comes to the brakes after we do the rear. We're waiting on the rear end from Quick Performance, so that's what the hang up is on there. So we decided to do everything up in the front first. I do have the TBM kit for the rear end, but I'm not going to do anything with it until the rear end's here and actually in the car. Once we get that done, then we're going to work on this box here. So what I've got here is the install kit for Motion. And what's nice about this is you can option it different ways, depending on what you're going to do. This is specifically for doing their brake system on all four corners. So it comes with all the right components. The master cylinder is from them as well. So everything is designed to work together. If you had a different brake setup, you could get a different bias, or if you wanted a line lock or you don't want a line lock, you can add that stuff in. We chose to go with the line lock, and what they send us is this one right here in their kit. And this one is made by Biondo, or Biondo. They sent a card with it, but that's what Motion supplies. That's what they recommend using. So it's a good quality name. I'm sure it'll work just fine. Any of them would probably, a line lock is a line lock. It's just a solenoid. Some are built better than others, but I'm sure there's nothing wrong with the Hurst or an Edelbrock or a Willwood or something like that. But we're gonna go with this one because that's what they sent us. I've got the AN flex hoses to replace all of the rubber lines. So this whole kit does the entire car. This is not just for the front or the rear. This is the entire car. They give you the two lines for the front, and then they give you the flex lines for the rear and the rear end. So there won't be any rubber lines in this car whatsoever. So this is where we've left off. And once we get the lines plumbed, then we'll go ahead and attach up front with these. It's 3/16 steel line, nothing special, just standard steel line. So you will have to flare your ends. If you're not familiar with how to flare, it's pretty easy. The biggest thing is just making sure that you do a double flare on a brake system. But they supply the brake line for you. And then this was what I thought was really cool, was on a blister pack, basically, they give you every fitting, every clip. You've got the adjustable proportioning valve, which they supplied from Willwood. They even give you the weld-on tabs to attach on the frame to be able to bulkhead your steel line right to your flex line. So they give you everything that's required, including the brake switch that comes on the proportioning valve. The block, the distribution block is here, all the clips, all the adapter fittings. I mean, it's 100%. Even the tube nuts for the steel brake line are included. And they just make it very easy. It's just a whole car setup, everything that you need in one-stop shop. So that will be coming up in a future video. I wanted to just kind of highlight the front brake install for now, getting rid of the stock stuff and going ahead and putting this stuff on. And the weight savings on this, I haven't put them on a scale yet. I really am curious I know that TBM or Motion has done that in some of their promo stuff, to where they'll take the stock components, they'll put it on a scale and they'll show the weight, and then they'll take their kit and they'll go ahead and do the same thing. They'll put it on a scale and they'll show the weight. So I know there's a little bit of time lapse in this one, but I figure that's the quickest, easiest way for people to kind of see what we're doing. Annie, for the most part, did the brakes as far as taking the stock stuff off and getting these installed. I just kind of went back behind her and made sure that things were torqued right and there was Loctite on things that needed Loctite, and that we got this all centered up correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel back on, and then we're going to get cracking on the steering rack install. Thanks again for joining. I hope you guys enjoy the content. I do encourage you to like and comment, subscribe if you want to follow along. This is just the beginning. We have a lot of stuff. I have a whole pile of boxes back behind the car over there that is all for future content. I've got all kinds of stuff to do this car, and we are trying to have this car race ready by Memorial Day weekend. So there shouldn't be a lot of lollygagging and waiting for the content to get put up. Hopefully the editing is what takes the longest, is to put it all together for you guys, but we do our best. It's just me and my daughter for the most part that are doing these. So, you know, she's still in high school. I work a full-time job, and then we do this on the nights and weekends. So we're doing the best we can, but I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'm glad that you decided to watch and follow along.